Hello, friends. Welcome back to Trending. Today is Thursday, November 21st. It's about 9:25 as we're starting. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like today is the first day when it's like pretty legit. It's cold.
Yeah.
This is the first like cold day. We've hit in the 30s. Winter is here.
Yes.
Finally, November 21st.
That's right. Car heater was on today.
Yes.
So
Nice. We officially reached that season, that time of year.
Yeah, no,
So,
here we are.
Here we are. Well, it continues to be a lot happening in the world, a lot happening at Ridgepoint. There's a lot going on. So today's one of those days where I wasn't really sure what we should talk about.
Okay.
There's kind of a lot of headlines, but a lot of it's just stuff that we don't typically talk about. So
Yeah.
went a little bit deeper in the archive than usual.
That's right. Dig deep.
But I found an interesting article, and I think it'll lead to a good conversation today. So
Okay.
there's a relatively new movie on Netflix right now called Woman of the Hour.
Okay.
It's starring and directed by Anna Kendrick.
Nice.
It's her directorial debut, her first film that she's directed. A lot of people know her from Pitch Perfect. She's been in all kinds of things, but this is her first directorial debut.
Yes.
And so it's kind of a crazy story. I didn't know about this until I did a little bit of research, but there's a crazy story from the 70s where there was this serial killer who killed several people, and then in a weird twist, he actually showed up live on a dating show on TV. He was on the dating game, like the one that was on national television. So as part of, he was just a weird guy, and that was part of his thing was he wanted to go on live TV, and so
Wow.
he was on the dating game, and then this contestant actually picked him to go out on a date with him because he was very charismatic and charming. And so it became kind of this weird story where the girl, anyway, I won't get too far into the details, but he ended up getting caught and arrested and all that kind of stuff. But he killed several people and was on live TV. So it's just one of these weird stories from the 70s that's kind of resurfaced, and so they made a movie about it. But Anna Kendrick, once the films, I think she kind of thought it was going to be kind of a smaller project, kind of an indie thing. It ended up doing well at the Toronto Film Festival. So all of a sudden she realized that, hey, we might actually make some money off of this thing. Netflix bought it, and she's done some interviews where she said that she just felt a little strange, and I think the word she used was gross. She felt like she couldn't profit off of a true crime story because there's a lot of people were killed by this guy, and it's kind of a dark story. So she just personally felt like it wasn't right for her to profit from telling a pretty gruesome story.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of leads to a bigger thing in culture right now. There's so many murder mystery, true crime podcasts, documentaries. There's a lot of them. And I hadn't really thought about that before, but it's true that all of these TV shows or podcasts that blow up, people are making money off of these pretty dark stories. And so Anna's decided to donate her funds to a couple of different organizations that give money to victims or families of victims. And I think it's a cool thing that she's doing. So I thought that was just interesting fodder for us to talk about. Like, there continues to be this kind of fascination with crime and murder in our culture today, which, I guess that's probably not going to go away. It's human interest, it's curiosity. They're crazy stories.
Right.
But should we be profiting off of these stories? And if people make money off of that, what should we do? And maybe even bigger question of how should we spend our money, especially in some of these kind of ethically gray areas. So, as usual, there's a lot there, Joe. What's the first thing that sticks out to you?
Maybe a side note first. I think we're entering into a neat era of film, not just because of the streaming services, but you have some of these younger actors who are beginning to take a swipe at directing and producing, and they're creating some great films. So our family just watched If, the John Krasinski film.
Yeah.
Wonderful film.
Cool.
I think it got all the way up to like near my top 2
Really?
movies of all time. So
Wow.
I can't recommend any higher than to watch If. But I think it's neat that these folks who are in front of the cameras are behind it now, and I think they're taking some chances in filmmaking that is going to advance film and its ability to reach and impact people. So kudos to Anna Kendrick for making something, because man, what if it bombed? You know what I mean? Like, so she took a chance. It seems to be well received. And then kudos to her for grappling with this dilemma of, what do we do with these stories? Number one, like, why is this interesting for us as a species to think about not just our best moments, but some of our most grim moments as a civilization? That's number one, just observing the fact that why are we drawn to this type of genre? Why are we drawn to these stories? Then number two, like, is this worthy of gaining a profit? Like, could you make a living? Should you make a living? Off of stories that absolutely wrecked and ransacked many other people's lives. So I think there's a lot going on there. I think this is something that's as old as the Bible itself, because the stories that we're drawn to are the grimmest of stories. I mean, you think Cain and Abel seems to hold such great sway over people in the modern world. Jordan B. Peterson, who is an author and thinker that I think some of our training audience care for, he thinks Cain and Abel is one of the best stories ever created. Now, critical scholars of the Bible would suggest that the writer of Genesis probably got the guts of that story from another ancient Mesopotamian tale about farmer and a farmer and a hunter, which is basically a tale about should we develop as a society, because hunter-gatherers were kind of nomadic, roaming everywhere, and then you have farmers who were sedentary. And so it's actually more of a cultural commentary of, is it good to stay in one place? Or do we turn into something that is unintendable? And I think that's what the true crime drama, it allows us to say, we look like a modern society. We look, very developed, and we assume that we have sanitized, parts of our species out because of it. But these things keep flaring back up. And so spiritual questions, philosophical questions, religious questions come up to the surface of these things again and again. So on the one hand, I think the true crime drama is interesting because it reminds us we need to be rescued, man. And I think also it does bring up this interesting dilemma. Well, should somebody, make a living, a handsome living, off of producing these things? I'm not so sure. So I think that's something worth talking about for sure for the long haul.
I've heard a few other people talk about this idea before in other podcasts and YouTube stuff before. One rationale that people give is why we're so enthralled by these stories, why we enjoy listening to these podcasts or watching these series. Yeah, it's kind of it's a safe way for us to wrestle with darkness. Because the world's dark, right? So if we listen to a dark story, even though we don't really, it might be kind of cringy for us to hear about really horrible stories, we at least know, we at least know things either are going to work out or at the bare minimum, we're not going to be involved. So it's kind of a way for us to experience darkness kind of a few steps removed. So it's kind of a safe way to just acknowledge the darkness around us. I don't know if that is a good excuse or not, because I don't know if we should be consuming this content or not. It's dark. Right. But that at least kind of makes sense to me. Yeah. It's a way for us to acknowledge the darkness of the world without putting ourselves directly in danger.
And this might come from the age-old play theory of catharsis, where you watch something, you should allow it to work on you. Yeah. And I think that is more redemptive and helpful and healthy than just voyeurism, or just you're just watching stuff to be entertained. And I think that comes up a lot in our own viewing habits in our modern society. There's an outcry for people who don't want to be challenged. They don't want to try to be persuaded when they watch a film. They just want to, quote, be entertained. Yeah, right. I mean, you hear this from time to time. I mean, sure, there's probably some desperate attempts by some filmmakers to have people change their minds about a social issue. And so they think, well, if we put that idea in a story of a film, it might disarm people, and they may go away with their mind changed, right? And if you don't want to have your mind changed about those topics, then you're going to resist those films. You're going to be irritable. You might even say, well, there's an agenda in Hollywood. They're after us, And so, it might be a healthy thing to say, hey, from time to time, I just want to go to a movie where I can laugh, or I can be amazed by special effects. Yeah. But I'm just of the mentality of you never stand in the same river twice. That's an age-old philosophical maxim, okay? We change constantly. The world around us changes constantly. And so can we actually go to anything and claim I am the very same person that I was before? I don't know. I think there's been some subtle change within us. Yeah. Not least because we went and viewed something together with family and friends. We just deepened a layer of our friendship and companionship together. We never are the same person, right? And so I think you pour that back into this idea of, well, then is true crime genre the vehicle for us to be transformed and changed? I don't know. Yeah. It shouldn't be a voyeurism. Yeah. It shouldn't be just like, hey, let's just go see what this was all about. but it should like somehow like weigh on us, like, okay, like we do understand that there is profound crime and brokenness in this world. As the people of God. We should be praying and working towards the eradication of these things, because this is God's good world. He's given Jesus charge of it, and we are found in Christ with him. Therefore, we're like image bearers with him, trying to make this world better. And so if a true crime series or film helps us to reckon with that, then I think it might be a net gain. But I think that the jury's still out if it ultimately does every single time, or more often than not, for it to be helpful for us as we seek to kind of find our vocation in this world. So
those are good thoughts. I think it'd be good for us to talk a little bit about the financial part of it, because I think that is just unique to this story. So what would you say for Christians, or even just for people in general? Do we have some kind of moral responsibility of how we earn our money and what we should do with it? Because I think that's something that I haven't heard us talk about too much, but if you're kind of profiting off of something kind of dark, should we just feel obligated to do something good with that money, or should we not even make money off of things that are kind of sketchy? That's kind of an interesting pickle, I think. What would you say about that?
I mean, there's a lot of general teachings about, how much should a Christian earn and seek to earn, and how we earn it, I think is a good theological question. I think this goes back to, if Jesus is the Lord of our life. Brent talked about it last Sunday from 1 Peter 3. He's the reason for the hope that we have, right, in all things. And so I think we got to bring that into our vocation too. There's not just people who are Christians who have sacred jobs, and the rest of us have secular jobs. That category is obliterated when we go back to 1 Peter, when he says that we're all a royal priesthood. All of us, not just those who went to seminary, but all of us. So when we venture out into the world as teachers and as bankers, as real estate agents and insurance brokers, we should all be saying, okay, how can this help sharpen the idea that I'm created in the image of God, and I'm as a little vice regent in this world around me, right? And so I think that we should consider all the things that we do, including the way that we make a paycheck. How does this fit in the grander vision of the kingdom of God? So that's why I admire what Kendrick has done, because she says this is a way for us to kind of make it right with families who were done wrong, right? And I think this goes back to what has Christians done with anything, broken thing in society. We look at the scripture text, which admonishes us, if something was taken from somebody, they should be repaid, right? That's in several of these esoteric laws in the nation of ancient Israel. If you somehow were liable for livestock to die in some nearby farm, if that was your fault, you should somehow make some sort of a restitution, right? But you kind of see this also in the conversion of Zacchaeus in Luke's gospel. Zacchaeus' first thought is, if I'm going to enter into life with Jesus, I need to repay when something has something that was my responsibility. And remember, it wasn't just even Stephen. He's like, 4 times as much as I took, right? And so he's like, I have to extend even further than I've taken. But the question comes back, it wasn't Anna Kendrick's fault that these things happened to these people. Right? So what is her responsibility? I think this is why this story is praiseworthy, because she could say at the same time, this wasn't my fault that these things happened to people. But I am highlighting the story. I'm bringing it all back up. So at the very least, what I could do is take something that's gained from this project and help bring some sort of restitution. And interesting word, a reparation back to these people, because that's what good, solid, moral, ethical people would do if they had the chance. So I think that we have to at least ask that question. Is there some sort of a direct responsibility I have? Then I need to somehow make that even, or make that good. Or if I have the chance and there's excess, could I even go above and beyond, even though it wasn't directly my issue? Because I believe in the goodness of humanity and believe in the vocation of God. Can I share some resources to help make something right? I think we got to be asking those questions all the time about things. And I think that is also a way that we can adorn the gospel. This gospel that we claim that to cling to, we say it's the story of all stories. It's the hope of all hopes. And the way that we adorn that story is that we be people who go above and beyond what everyone else is doing. I was just in a Bible study just this week with some guys on Wednesday morning, and we were in Luke 6, where Jesus talks about you love those who love you. Like even everybody does that.
Right.
But could you love your enemies? And what's ultimately Jesus doing there? He's like, we're trying to adorn a message and a way of life that's higher than everyone else's way of life.
Yep.
And so I think Christians have to regularly say, how can I go further than just the basic standard of everyone else?
Yep.
So that I can draw attention to the God I put my trust in.
Yep.
And I think that we have to be asking ourselves that regularly so that people might have their minds open about giving Jesus a chance.
Yeah.
Because right now, the Christian message is so resistible. What makes it irresistible is we do things like what Anna Kendrick has done.
Yeah.
Go above and beyond any expectation to give people a chance to stop and to think, well, maybe this is a better way to live.
Yeah.
They're claiming it is, but now they're acting it out.
Yep.
Perhaps it's something I should investigate further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's well said. Totally agree. Yeah. Maybe one more question we can start to wrap up here, but this is an interesting time of year where Thanksgiving is a few days away, and then we have these, it's kind of a weird string of days where we have Thanksgiving, Black Friday,
yes,
and then Small Business Saturday.
Yeah.
Does Sunday have a special day?
I don't think so. You need to go to church and worship.
Sunday, yeah, there you go. Go to church. And then we got Cyber Monday, and then Giving Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
So there's this chunk of days where spending money, giving money, shopping is kind of in the zeitgeist, to use our word, right?
So we've met our quota. Yeah.
There we go. So I guess it's just kind of interesting that we're talking about this week when all these days are just coming up around the corner here. So I guess one more chance for you to talk about finances just a little bit, because I think this time of year, a lot of us spend more than we should on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. This is the kind of, we spend a lot of money. So then there's kind of this, it's kind of the shame thing of like Christians shouldn't buy a bunch of stuff they don't need. I kind of hear that. And then the Giving Tuesday comes around and it's kind of like, okay, get your conscience clear and give to some charity.
Sure.
I think, unfortunately, that's kind of what it's come down to, is like spend a lot of money, kind of feel bad about it, and then give to somebody to kind of make your conscience feel better. I don't know. Maybe that's just what I've come to experience over the last several years. But as we're getting into these kind of weird stretch of days, anything else you want to add about how we use or spend or give our money?
I mean, I'd love to take this topic on. We have a bunch more time. Don't want to hold people captive here. Sure. But I just go back to the axiom of Jesus where he says, it is more blessed to give than it is to receive. I mean, Paul only was a red letter Christian a couple of times, and this is one of them. Like he talked about the communion talk that Jesus ultimately ushered in when he administered communion in the upper room. Yep. Then he talked about it is more blessed to give than it is to receive. Yep. Okay. And I think that we know that. Like when we do give, we're like, you know what, this is good. Like I feel good, and it's not like I'm prideful and I think I'm better than everyone else. But when we give from the heart, I think we hear the base note of what it means to be human, particularly human before God. Yep. And so I guess the invitation there is like, don't you want to feel that way over and over and over again? Yeah. As much as possible. And don't you want to help the world around you? Yeah. I just think no matter how much we claim our society is becoming more and more secular, it's still a pretty generous culture. Yeah. We still rush to this experience of giving when we don't have to. Yeah. Because we know that when we do, it really does like give us a window into this is why I was created. This is like some of the best feelings I've had in a long time. Yeah. And so yes, as we're gathering Christmas presents, good grief, have a great Christmas with our families. Give to people that we love. Give some more to like the giving tree or to the big offering coming up this Sunday or other opportunities that you might have. Right. We do that because it seems to highlight the great message of Christmas, which is like God could have turned his back on this world, a world that rejected him. Yeah. But he moved closer toward it. He took on human flesh, and he rescued it from all of its mess. And I think God felt good to do that. Yeah. And in some small way, when we give not just for our own needs, but also to the needs of others, we like join into that great wisdom of donating who we are so that somebody else can thrive. Yeah. And I think we embody the message of Christmas even more vividly. Yep. And so let's take all the opportunities that we can to do so, because I think it feels good, but it also once again adorns this message of Christmas so that more people might know about it. Yeah. And I think that ultimately that'd feel good too. Yeah. You mentioned the big offering, and I'm working on kind of finishing up stuff for this Sunday. And so this Sunday we're giving away all of our money, all of our offering to HopeNet, which is a great organization, Lifeline Global, Jesus Loves Wichita Project,
A little bit's also going to this orphanage in Mexico that we support, and ICOM, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm working on putting together a video where we're kind of sharing all these stories. And the video ends with like, man, what an honor.
Yes.
Like, what an honor for us to give whatever we can. These are 5 great organizations, and what an honor it is for us to be able to chip in and give a little bit to help really great things happening around the world.
Yeah.
Like, how cool.
Yes.
How cool that we get to be a part of that. So
Yes.
I think that's kind of my takeaways.
That's well said.
It's an honor.
That's well said. There are times in our human experience, going back to this true crime thing, although you and I have not committed true crimes.
Yes.
There are times that we've like failed and maybe we've haven't treated somebody the way that they should have been treated.
Yeah.
Like, and we walk away from that because our consciences are not seared.
Yeah.
We're going, I wish I could do that. Like, I would do that differently if I had a chance,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I think when we give, like, we're just like, that is, once again, this is why I was created.
Yeah.
And when we see other people doing it, we're going, we're kind of adding towards something like behind all things, which we're just kind of magnifying. And ultimately, it's God that's behind all things, but we're magnifying this great wisdom, this great love.
Yeah.
That's in excess, and there's plenty supply of it. And I just go back to what Kristen Dunbeck. She's actually an atheist thinker, but she was real and honest about how she's had some spiritual experiences, and she concludes like the world's best kept secret is that love doesn't need to be scarce.
Yeah.
And what I love about this season is that we see that.
Yeah.
Like, love is spread far and wide.
Yeah.
And I think this is why people call this season a season of cheer and of goodness. And it's because we see so many micro stories of generosity.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think the world's better because of it. So
Totally agree.
Yeah.
So for our church, let's be generous this Sunday.
Yeah.
If you're around here, you'll hear way more about it on Sunday.
Yeah.
But yeah, Anna Kendrick, way to go. Like, it's just such a great example. I hope there's more stories like that.
What an amazing story, man.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, should we wrap it up there?
Let's wrap it. Hang up the phone, man.
A little PSA for the next few weeks.
Yes.
Next Thursday is Thanksgiving.
Yes.
The following Thursday, you're going to be in Memphis.
Right. Run it.
Getting ready to run.
Run that St. Jude Marathon.
Yes.
Yes.
So we, as of today, as of 9:47 on the 21st, we don't know what the next couple weeks hold.
Yeah.
We'll try to squeeze in some episodes, but we may not be able to.
Yes.
So hope to see you soon, but if not, we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
So if we don't see you beforehand, have a great run.
All
Can't
right.
wait to hear about it.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right.
You too.
All right.
Okay. See you guys.
See you next time.